There she is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are diving into country music today with this special guest. Born and raised in Sudbury, Ontario, this person is a country music star, but began his working career in true Nickel City fashion in the mines. Since then, he released top 15 track Didn't Know Me and back-to-back top 10 hits On Me and Do It With You. He was also a part of the top 10 most played Canadian country artists at country radio, in addition to taking home the CMAO Award for Rising Star and was crowned the winner of Sirius XM's Top of the Country competition. Just a little list of accomplishments there, folks. His newest album, 4 Good Years, comes out May 6th. Get those pre-downloads going, people, because you know he drops absolute bangers. Please welcome Andrew Hyatt to the B2B podcast. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing today? That was a great intro, man.
Yes. Thank you. There you. We're off the ball, going good. I love it. Yeah, no, we're doing good, Andrew. So where are you at right now, and what's going on in recent times for you?
Yeah, so I'm in Sudbury right now. We bought a place here. I guess this is year 3. We bought it just before the pandemic, and luckily decided that this is kind of where we wanted to be, and got in while the market was still, good to get
level.
In. Yeah. So just man, I set up a little studio. That's what I'm in right now in my basement, and couldn't go anywhere, couldn't travel to the States or the West Coast to do any recording. So just spent the last 2 years literally making a record in my basement here and kind of shipping things off via Dropbox back and forth with players out of Nashville and LA and Vancouver. And that's how we did it around this time. But yeah, I'm getting ready for a record release, man. It's a lot of this stuff right here, actually, a lot of interviews and a lot of just press and getting ready for a release show. So that is always a fun kind of, I feel like we're shaking off a lot of rust. We had a rehearsal last week. It was the first time all 8 of us were in a room together.
Wow.
In a few years. So yeah, it's been good, man. A little nerve wracking, but also like that anxious excitement, right?
Awesome. Yeah. Love that.
So Andrew, the first question I got for you, and we always go back right to the start of everyone's career with every guest we have on, like what age did you start playing music and when did it really start for you?
I picked up a guitar. I was 11, I would say, is kind of like I remember my sister was dating this guy, Phil Auger from North Bay, and we went out there to pick her up. My mom and I, and him and his brother were just like outside playing guitar. And that was the first time I had ever really seen anybody like play guitar, sing, and then someone else playing guitar and singing harmony. And I was hooked. I was just like, whatever that is, I need more of that in my life. So then I moved home and I came back home and I called a couple of buddies who, one guy played guitar, one played bass, and one kind of played drums. Okay. And we were just like, hey, we should start a band. And we were obviously absolutely terrible. And, I was lucky 2 of the brothers in that band. We all grew up in church together. So their dad was one of the pastors at the church here in town. So we had keys to the church sound system and drum kit and the whole. Nice. So we would be in there late every night, just kind of learning to play our instruments. And so 11 was kind of the moment. And then I really never looked back, man. Everything that I did from that moment on was kind of like, okay, if I have to get a job to pay the bills, what job allows me the most amount of time to play music full time? Right. Like, whether that was, okay, I'm going to be an iron worker because I can get a layoff for 2 months every time I make a record and then go tour a record and still have something to come back to. And then when I was kind of tired of that and burnt out, I was like, okay, maybe I'll be a cop. So then I went to police foundations because I was like, if I work for 3 years, I can probably bank 5 weeks in a row, take them all off. I can still tour. And luckily enough, it never got to that. I did 1 year of school for that. And I ended up, signing a deal and moving to Toronto. So,
and the rest is history, as they say. That is unreal. So taking it back to when you worked as an iron worker in the mines, like, was there a time where, there was that thought in your mind that maybe, I may not ever never get to chase the music dream, or were you just trying to buy time?
Yeah, I mean, there's still, Monday, Tuesday might be great, but like tomorrow I could wake up and be like, it's over, my brain is always thinking worst case scenario. And that's something that I really work on lately, is trying to navigate the mental aspect of success. I feel it's funny to say that, but Yeah, I think with the ironworkers, I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do. And in fact, I kind of got a push out the door there because I was talking to a guy in the lunchroom. We were actually building the Anmar shop, like the newer shop. We were putting that together, and I'm sitting there in a trailer talking to this one iron worker, and he was like, man, like, when do you go back to trade school, or when do you go to trade school? Because I kept skipping trade school because I didn't really want to go. I'm like, I just want to stay, work, and make money. And they're like, well, you now have 3 years of skipping trade school. Like, you have to go do it all back to back to back. Like, okay. And then I like mentioned that I didn't actually want to be an iron worker, and that I was just trying to save up like 15K to go and make a record. And I wasn't on my regular crew on that job. There's another foreman and like a few other guys. It was like a slow season, so we were kind of getting moved around the Anmar stuff. And I came back from lunch, and there was a layoff slip on my lunchbox because the push at the time was like, fuck this guy. If he doesn't want to be an iron worker, he's taking up space. Get him out. Like that kind of vibe. And that was like the push. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go to school for music production. So that's what I did. I did a 1 year intensive, and I met my guitar player and an amazing friend, amazing producer. Like he just finished the new Arkells record. He's doing all kinds of like bigger records. I know he kind of like revamped the Trues, the last 2 records. He worked with bands like the Elwins, and he's got hands in everything. But I met him in school, and we started making music together back then. And that's kind of what like fueled my ability to do this, was finding someone who I'm great at like writing ideas and like getting pieces of the puzzle, and then working with people who are like assembling those on like a really musical level. Whereas my thing is just like, what am I saying? What's the melody? And that's kind of where that's my my expertise, quote unquote. And then I rely heavily on other people to kind of build the musical aspect of stuff.
Cool. What a cool story, man. I love that. And in 2015, on Me comes out and hits top 10, an absolute fantastic song. Like, was that a moment for you? We always like to ask, like, was there a moment for you where like, okay, this thing, is serious. Like I'm able to take off here. Was that a moment for you?
Yeah, I think that was kind of like, it's funny because that's like the first marker that everybody sees, right? Is like, right. Oh, you like first top 10. But at that point, I think I was 3 years deep into my first record deal. I had a top 14 as a writer with a song called Moonshine by this other country artist named Allie, who was, she was killing it and still is. She's living in the States doing her indie thing, and it's great. And then I had a couple cuts with a few pop artists at that point, one of them being this guy, Virginia de Vegas. I had a song called Polaroid that I co-wrote. So there was like a little bit of money coming in there. But yeah, as far as like career and country music went, that was like a moment to me where I was like, okay, so this is the marker. Like, this is what I'm chasing, is that. And then what you see after that happens, like 3 months later, as festival season nears, and all of a sudden your offers have like doubled in price. You're getting way more money to play shows. You're getting way more shows. Kind of hit that like sizzle commodity, right? It's like people want you sudden. Whereas, you're not calling your booking agent being like, fuck man, like I need like 6 shows at least this summer to pay my bills, or I got to go back to like bartending, so that's kind of the vibe. But I feel like that never goes away. You know what I mean? Like that is always looming in the back of your mind. If this interview would have been 3-4 days ago, you would have caught me in like the low part of the season of panic, where this just is like this time of year is always like, oh no, like what's coming in? And I did my calendar yesterday after getting off like a bunch of calls, and I don't have like I got to re-roof my garage at some point between now in August, and like I don't have a weekend until like October, so I'm just like, oh god, what have I wished for?
Oh man,
hopefully when this episode comes out Thursday, someone will contact you that does roofs, and
we'll take care of it for you.
We'll take care of it for
exactly.
Obviously this industry is like new to all of us, and even our fans. Andrew, like, talk to us about what's it like writing the actual songs? Like, do you reach out for any collaborations or tips when you're writing songs? Like, run us through the whole process there.
Yeah, I feel like so it just depends, right? For me, I've always written from a point of things I've experienced.
Okay.
Or, you know, if like, let's say there's a title or an idea, right? Or you're going through something and you're just thinking about, I think the first song I ever wrote that kind of put me in a place where I was like, okay, I can do this for a living, was a song called She Ain't You. And, you know, I had just gone through a breakup, and it's funny talking about, like, especially a podcast from Sudbury, because it's like I dated, this all happened in Sudbury. So, you know, but I just split up with a girl that I had been with for, you know, 3 years, and we had lived together. And then I was like going to propose, and it all kind of went sideways on me. And then, you know, you're dating other people in, you know, in life. And then all of a sudden, like, little things that they're doing remind you of the person that you're still like in love with, but trying to get over. But then, like, you can see potential in this new thing. So I wrote a song called She Ain't You. And it was about that, like, all of the things that this person are doing or is doing that is reminding you of somebody else. So that was like a moment that I drew from. And then it just depends, man. Like, sometimes, you know, things will just hit me, or I'll have a dream, I'll write about that. Or, you know, someone will say something. I've got a writing buddy, this guy, Martin McPhail, who does a lot of, they do a lot of scoring for films and video games. Like, he used to be in a band, but that's their thing. And his brain and mine work very differently. So we'll get together and write, and he'll often just like say a title without any sort of like roadmap to it. And like, he wrote it, he was like, what about like Midnight Mass? He's like, that's a cool thing. And then that triggers, you know, this idea of how churches and bars are kind of the same. So I'm like, okay, like Midnight Mass, like talking about how a bar is like, it's kind of like a church, you know, and the similarities between them. It's like, this ain't Sunday morning, it's a neon midnight mass, you know, like things like that. But I also get a lot of pitched songs to me. So that's like, there's writers in Nashville, and, you know, Morgan Wallen, Hardy, Ernest, all these big names, like those guys are writing, like, you know, Old Dominion, like those guys are writing, you know, 200 and some songs a year, because they're just constantly writing. And then a lot of those songs don't get cut. They go to their publisher, and then we have relationships with the publisher, or my management team does. So then I'll get a folder of songs that has, you know, 50 songs in it, and I'll comb through those. And, you know, usually I'll find like one that I like, that I'm like, okay, this is dope. And then that kind of sets a tone for what we're going to do for the rest of the record. And there's been records that I've written, you know, half the songs on, or 3/4 of the songs on. And then there's records that I've written one song on. It just depends. Best song always wins, right? Like, you put your pride away, and you say, like, the best thing for me as an artist is to record the best possible songs.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And for the songs that you kind of pick up and don't write, do you find yourself trying to make an emotional attachment to it like you would when you write a song?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like the only time I will cut an outside song is if I have that connection to it. Like, if I hear a song and it takes me to a time and a place, and I can like taste the air in that moment, I'm like, that's a song, because now when I'm singing it, I feel like I can be true. I feel like I can be authentic. Yeah. And I kind of dread the day where I get pitched a song and I don't cut it, and then it becomes like a number one for someone else. I'm gonna be like, son of a bitch, you know?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And it seems like the lyrics usually come before the music. Is that how it works with you?
Like, if I'm writing alone, it all just kind of comes at the same time, man. I'm like singing words. I don't know. It's like I bought it all out. And that's honestly kind of the way it works with everybody, is you're kind of like writing the melody and the lyrics at the same time. And usually you've either got someone who is building a track in the background. So they're like, okay, I wrote this morning, or I put this piece of music together. Do you guys vibe to this? And then everyone's like, yeah, we really like that. And then you're just trying to like top line over top of that and make it feel cool and make it cohesive, all well, you know. Trying to do that in 3 hours, 3.5 hours. If you're in Nashville, it's like, I just write like that there. Yeah. So I'm not that fast. That's why I don't love like the big co-write stuff. I love, you know, having a week to comb through. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
So what are the vibes like, Andrew, when you're in the actual studio itself?
Uh, I mean, most of the time it's all good. Like when we get to
Right.
that point, I'm pretty rehearsed. This record was different. Like literally this room, like you can't see it, but I've got a microphone set up, and like I went out and bought the same gear that the guys that I work with have as far as like mics went. So like the vibe here was like, okay, well, I don't even have pants on. I wake up, I come downstairs, I like fire up a track, put my headphones on, you know, sing once, two, three, four times through it. And then I'm like, my voice isn't warmed up yet. So I like take my dog for a walk, and then I'll like, get sidetracked for 5 hours, and it's 9 p.m. and I'm like, okay, I got to sing today. And then that's kind of the vibe here in the studio. We've done live off the floor records. I think that's probably my favorite way to do it. We kind of, the very first record, Iron and Ashes, a lot of those songs were cut live off the floor. So if you're in Nashville, you're hiring session musicians to come in. And I've been in rooms with guys that like you wouldn't even believe it. Like, it's just nuts, man. Like they've never heard the song. So they chart it out, and usually have a band leader. And then like, for instance, we had a song, we had 3 songs that we recorded. One was called Most of Me. One was called Goodbye Gone. And I'm trying to think what the other, Running on Empty. Those were the 3 off of the Iron and Ashes record that we went in initially and cut together. And that was my first experience in a Nashville studio. And those guys, in 3 hours, we cut 3 songs. Like, we were done. We split a bottle of whiskey and just like shot the shit. And then we still had like 40 minutes at the end, because those guys were so fast. Like, I think we ran through the first song 3 times, and we ended up keeping the first take. And it's like, those guys, like, they're all just, they're nuts, man. Like, there is no level of musicianship like that anywhere else in the world in that like quantity. Right. So,
Gotcha.
but then sometimes, we're parting pieces out. So I'll sing, my producer will program drums on the computer, and then we'll send it to a drummer. He'll play drums, and then, we'll send it to a guitar player, and everybody will be separate and just kind of go back and forth with ideas. So there's a million ways to do it, but those are kind of the 2.
Gotcha. Yeah. Cool. And I mean, Nashville seems like obviously it's the mecca of country music. So like, how much do you love Nashville? And I mean, if you could, would you live there full time?
Yeah, man. I think I would, for sure. Like, I love going there, doing 2-week stints. And then, coming home. I do like Sudbury, as far as not in winter, but the rest of the year. I like it.
Yeah.
The other 3 seasons I love, but yeah, I think for me, I love being around the creative process, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was there for 2 weeks in, I think, mid-January, and I wrote in 14 days I was there. I think we wrote 12 songs. So it's like a drain. I think if I lived there, it wouldn't be that intense, but when I'm there, I'm trying to make the most of it.
Right.
They're not all good. You know what I mean? Like, 4 of those songs are great songs, and we'll probably use 2 of them, and I'll keep doing that. But yeah, Nashville's dope. Obviously, being around, it's like anything, being around like-minded people is great. It's like probably the reason 3 guys are still friends is because you have stuff in common that like holds you together, or you have like history that, kind of bonds you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of forced, Andrew, just to be friends with Chimino. Just
do this. his parents pay you. Yeah, I've been there.
Well, no, actually, I got him through university, so that's why
Yes.
he's still friends with me. So there you go.
That's why I still have to be his friend for a couple more years, and then I'll slowly stop answering and drift away.
That's great.
Did you get to perform at any of the bars that we all like know from Nashville, Andrew?
I'm trying to think. Nothing that you guys have heard of. Okay. I've played a few writers rounds down there, but never in anything big. The issue for me is when I'm down there, I'm technically not working, right? Like, so I'm writing songs, which doesn't amount to making money. So I'm kind of just there writing and doing whatever. But as soon as you start playing shows, then you got to have all kinds of paperwork. So if I wanted to, or else you can get kicked out of the country. So we've been very careful about that to make sure to toe that line. But I think, Nashville is it's in the cards for us, but like my fiance, she has a business here in town, and like it does well, and it's just hard, right? When you have two
For sure.
people, you got to kind
Mhm.
of split the dream. Sure, like if I start like rolling in number ones at radio, then great, I'll move all of us and the dogs down there, no problem.
Yeah.
But right now, she makes good money, I do okay too, so it's just kind of nice to have that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no doubt. On to touring now. What's it like being on a tour? How fast paced is the life, and do you enjoy it?
Yeah, for sure. Touring's probably my favorite part of music.
Mhm.
Like when you're, I don't know, like 14, 15, and like nobody has their license yet, so you would all go to like a buddy's house for the weekend, and
Yeah.
like you'd GoldenEye in the basement or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'm like aging myself here, and like that was your weekend, like your Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday you'd go home. That's what tour is like, but it's like 30 days of that.
That's
So it's
unreal.
the absolute best. You got just like my experiences have been really great because I've always prided myself and like made sure I'm surrounded by great humans. So my band is just full of people that I love hanging out with outside of music. And then, the bands that we've been out on the road with, for example, when I toured with Dallas Smith, that was like the best. We're just like a great crew on a couple buses, and you wake up in a different city every day, and you walk off the bus and you're kind of parked at the back of the arena, and someone's like, there's these like blue or whatever laminated arrows, and it says like this way to breakfast and this way to the showers. And so really the only thing you have to do is like work out, eat, sound check, play a show for whatever it is, if it's 15 minutes because you're an opener, or 30 minutes because it's an opener, and then you get to like hang out with people who love your music and sign stuff and just kind of promo yourself, and then drink at like a cool local bar, and then you get back on the bus around 2 a.m. bus drives through the night, and you wake up and you do it all over again. And then you get home 30 to 35 days later, and you wake up that first day, and you're like, okay, which way to breakfast? Shit. It's like I gotta make my own, So yeah, I love touring, man. I love it so much. I don't know. It's the
That
best.
is so cool. I know
Yeah.
it's cool to hear like how passionate you are around it, and just how fun it seems like. Like the way we relate to that is probably going like on hockey tournaments, Tom. That was like
Yeah.
the best time, and you never wanted to leave. Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've had a couple tours. You were with Chris Lane and legend Gord Bamford. So what were those tours like, and how different were they from each other?
Yeah, so the Chris Lane run was cool. So my friend Sean Austin and I, also a musician, who he just finished a single with Chris Lane that just came off air. I think that went to like number 5. So he's killing it. But yeah, so Sean and I kind of came up at the same time in music, and we're both managed by Dallas and his company. So that tour was cool because we kind of switched on and off, I think is how we did it. So, we'd play 4 songs each, shared a band. It was super chill, super easy. You're like hanging out, rooming with somebody that you're friends with. The Gord Bamford tour was a little different, only because that tour, so Gord did his thing, but then he brought, it was like one long show, and he would bring us all out at different points in the show to play a couple songs. And then there was a bar on stage, and we would all just sit at that bar and drink until it was our turn to sing. So,
That is unreal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually probably a good thing that tour kind of got, it's not a good thing, but probably a good thing for my liver that tour got kiboshed because of COVID. I think we were the last show actually in Canada. We played 4 dates, and then we went to the 5th date, and we were in, I think we were in Alberta somewhere. And I remember them saying like, I think the government is going to mandate that like no more public gatherings is happening. And we were waiting for that call from like noon on, and we're like, okay, well, if they don't announce it by 5, like that's when doors are. So we're going to start, or like 6, that's when doors are. We're going to go ahead with the show. And we played the show, and we got off stage, and they were like, that's it. Like the government has called it. Like there's no more live anything. So we were 5 days into a tour. We partied our faces off that night, and everybody got plane, went home. All of us were sick for 2.5 weeks when we got home. We didn't know if it was COVID or not, but we were but none of those people got COVID ever again. So we're like, maybe that was it, you know.
There you go.
We got really.
Wow. That is wicked stories. And I mean, we always have to ask, like, what's your favorite cities on tour?
Man, I love Vancouver, obviously, just because being out there is beautiful, and I got a lot of friends out there. Love playing that. I love playing the Abbotsford Arena. That's like some of my best memories are out there. But I would say, man, there's so many, like any small town vibes. Like if you're playing like a small town hockey barn, you know, any night of the week, you'll see some crazy stuff, and you'll just see people that I don't want to say they're starved for music, but there's less of it, right? Like the magnitude of how many bands that come through. It's not every single night there's something to do. So there's an excitement there that doesn't exist in like Toronto or in Vancouver. That's why like Abbotsford is great. Playing like Oshawa over Toronto, or like Whitby or Hamilton over Toronto is always, your turnout's always going to be better. Your crowd is going to be a little drunker and a little wilder. And but don't get me wrong, I love, like, we're playing Toronto this Friday, and that'll be a cool show. But just from what I've seen, I feel like smaller towns are better, or it's like the opposite. You know, we played. Sorry, I ramble sometimes, but
we love this. Is what we love, yeah.
In I think it was Dawson Creek, in wherever that is, like up in, is it Alberta? I'm so bad with that. But it was a Friday night, and I'm like on the side of the stage getting ready to sing, and we had just played Prince George, and that was insane. Like we saw so many fights in the crowd that night. Our security was like in their mind, and I'm standing like side stage, and I'm like about to go on, and I feel like somebody pushed me out of the way and run up, and I thought it was like a sound tech or a guitar, like monitor tech or guitar tech was running up because something happened. And then I look up, and there's just this hammered dude on stage. And he's like on the back of one of my guitar players or one of the guitar players who was from that place. And yeah, we had to literally, myself and a monitor tech, like wrapped his arm around the back of him, like picked it up, kicked him in the back of the knees till he hit the ground, and like picked him up and threw him back off stage. Like that kind of stuff. That's what I love about small towns. Like you never know what's going to happen.
It's so true.
Yeah.
That is unreal.
Do you have any dream tour guest, Andrew?
I mean, there's like the ones that you're like, oh man, I would love to be out with. You know, like playing with a guy like Eric Church would be awesome. Like as direct support, like that kind of thing. You know, we're actually going to do a festival with him, not direct support, but it's still cool to do that festival. Man, I feel like for me, the dream is seeing the people that I love, that like we've all kind of spent the last 10 years slowly coming up together. Like the dream is to be on the road with those guys and see them all killing it. I love touring with bigger acts. You know, we've opened for everyone from like, well, Dallas Smith to Maren Morris, did direct support for her on a couple on one festival. Played a few other festivals with her as well. You know, we Old Dominion, like those acts are all so polished. It's amazing to see. And I always feel like I learn things from them. But yeah, man, I think the dream for me is like coming up with the people that I'm like neck and neck with, who are like my friends, who I'm in text threads with, and seeing them kill, and us getting on a tour. Cause that's the best part about tour, is the people you're with. So I think that would be the most fulfilling to me, is seeing everybody win.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot. And just before you talked about that, obviously small towns, obviously wanted to ask, what's it like playing in your hometown, in Sudbury? What's that compared to any other place?
It's always great, man. Like, I cut my teeth here, right? I quit, when I quit my job, or quit, well, when the ironworker thing like washed out on me and I signed a deal, like I wasn't making money. So I was bartending, right? And then I was living in Toronto, and then I moved home for a couple of years, because Toronto got really expensive. And I was playing 3 nights a week in bars here. I was playing Peddler's Pub. I was playing, Respect is Burning, or the Townhouse. I was playing anywhere and everywhere I could, man. I was booking my schedule months in advance, just so I knew at the end of the month, okay, there's like $2,500 coming in, so I can pay my rent, I can pay my cell phone, I can pay my car payment, and then get groceries, and then everything else that happens like in music goes back into music. So it's great, man. I kind of miss that, right? I miss being able to just, when I'm bored in Nashville, you can go play a writer's round any night of the week and you won't be penalized for it. Whereas here, I took a fundraiser one time, and I took a $400 pay each night, but I paid my guitar player $400 each night just to be there with me. Cause it's a fundraiser, and we lost $6,000 on a gig because the promoter was like, well, he played in town for $400. And so it's like the politics of it, like that,
Wow.
that I hate because I'm like, you wouldn't go play hockey without, working out and going to the gym, like at a professional level. You'll be in the gym 3-4 times a week. But for me, like, I would love to play once a week in town, like a 3-hour set just at a bar for no money. But the optics and like the politics of it kind of steal the joy from that. So I do love playing here. I know we're coming back in September, like as a full band, and that'll be the first one that we've done, oh man, in years. But yeah, it's great. People are great here. We did a little like strip down thing, fundraiser last year, I think in November. And I think we were trying to do 2 nights in a small venue. I think it was 50 people max, just very chill. And like, I think we sold it out in like both nights in 20 minutes. So it's, that's great for me. I'm like, hey, that's amazing. I love that. And I love that people support. So yeah, it's great, man.
Awesome. Love that. And you kind of mentioned a little bit, dealing with politics and stuff like that. Obviously signing with a label can always, you can see some of that sort of stuff too. So what's it like signing with the label, and obviously you're with 604 labels right now. So how's that been?
604 is the best, man. Like my team right now, I've joked that like I've assembled a team of assholes, and like at least I know what I'm getting, right?
Yeah.
Like if they don't like something or something's bugging them, like those guys will just call me and they'll just take a shit right on it. You know what I mean? And I don't have to guess. They're not going to kill me with yeses. And then I have to wonder like what they're thinking. My first record deal, which contractually I have to say we split amicably. That's what the severance package says that I have to say. So that's what I'm saying. But it wasn't that. It was, and I am grateful that somebody took a chance on me, that team took a chance on me back then. But you're not always going to see eye to eye. Music is so subjective, and art is so subjective, that if you have a creative director or head of A&R who they believe that like this is the way, but you think this is the way, it's going to be a disaster, man. And like, I feel like I still have like relationship anxiety from those relationships. And I still like am constantly checking in with my team to be like, everybody is on board with this, right? Like everybody is in agreement. Like you're not just saying that and then you're going to light me on fire when I'm not looking. So yeah, John Simkin is, he's just a monster, man, like in the best way possible. He is responsible for so many great bands that have come out of Canada and great acts. Theory of a Dead Man, he's been with those guys for, I want to say like 20 years, and they had their biggest record ever 2 years ago. So he never gave up. He's responsible for Call Me Maybe with Carly Rae Jepsen. Yep. He's the guy who found, Defaults, so Dallas's like original band. The Nickelback stuff, John was a huge part of that. Mariana's Trench, like he's the kind of guy that if he didn't invest in music, he'd be a lot wealthier than he is, but he doesn't care because he loves investing in music. And it's amazing to be on a label where I do this like side A, side B, because a lot of stuff that I write doesn't really fit the mold of country music. Like if you listen to a song like Wildflowers, that got a lot of play on like Sirius XM North Americana, but it doesn't fit the mold of radio country music.
Gotcha.
I'd call him and be like, hey man, like I need X amount of dollars, or I want to record 4 songs live off the floor, which is not cheap to do. And he would just be like, yeah, man, like, let's just keep building catalog. Like that's a great way to make money. You know, he's in it for the long term. So yeah, it can be great. I've seen a lot of people have terrible experiences, and a lot of my friends and fellow artists have been burned, and there's people who, you know, never recover from that. They're still amazing at what they do, but they get gun shy, right? So yeah,
Awesome.
if that answers your question. Sorry, I tend to like,
no,
I love it.
Yeah, I know you answered it perfectly. Like that's like the best thing to hear is you having a team around you that is gonna tell you how it is, but they also support you, and that's it's awesome to hear that everything is going great with that. So
yeah, man. Yeah.
Can you, like, so Mason did a little bit of research on this, and this is obviously new to us. Like I mentioned, Andrew, like, can you break down what an EP is versus like a full length album, and like what kind of qualifies a project as an album?
I think an album qualifies anything over 8 songs, or yeah. So I think 9 songs on, or length. There's like a time. There's a specific time length. And I think, yeah, anything under 8 songs or 8 songs and under is an EP based on time. And I don't know who set those terms, but I do know that for like the Country Music Awards, their qualifications for awards, right? Like album of the year, you can't qualify if it's an EP or vice versa. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I could be wrong, but yeah, that's the I think it's amount of songs or within a certain time.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha. Yeah, because we were nervous. We're like, well, is 4 Good Years, is that an album, an EP? We didn't know, so we checked Apple Music and confirmed Apple Music does say it's an album. So there you go. But
yeah, does it say it's an album?
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. Because I think, maybe it's 7 songs and then anything over. So maybe I'm wrong, because I think there's 8 songs that are going to be on that. So
yeah,
maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just go like, this is how many songs we want to record right now, and go from there.
Awesome. Yeah. Love that. So kind of preview us what 4 Good Years is like, and is it, how different is it to what you've released so far?
Yeah, I think, you know, this record is different for me for a few reasons. I think, one, I was coming off a vocal injury coming into this. So like I had to have surgery I had terrible reflux since the time I was 24. And then those meds just messed up everything from like my stomach to like everything in my body. And then my vocal cords were getting swollen all the time. And I lost my voice for almost 2 years. Like which sent me down a spiral of anxiety. And I still battle that demon all the time now. Because it was like breathing to me prior to. So this record's the first record that I cut alone vocally. So there was no time limit, no clock. So there's some experimentation that happens on this record. Vocally, there's just like little nuanced things that I do that I try to emote on. And then as far as sonically goes, I feel like it's probably the most balanced record that we've done between, you know, the early days. There was a lot, like 2 records back, or 3 records back, it was a little more pop heavy, like Do It With You and On Me are kind of a little poppier. And then the Kane record, that started to kind of transition into like a little more rock. And then the last record we did, the Neverland record, that just felt to me like I was just in a rock headspace. I wanted everything heavier. That was always my note when I got stuff back, being like, yeah, it needs more guitars. And my producer was like, any heavier in country music, like country radio won't play this. So let's dial it back. But this record, I just fell in love with music all over again, man. If a song came along and it was like super pop and the melodies were poppier, and there was no ego there. I didn't want to like be cool. I was like, oh man, fuck, I wake up singing this song, so I'm going to record it. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone on this record, I would say. There's one song called Still Something on it, which I feel like that was a song that we recorded 3 years ago, and it wasn't supposed to it got released and then it got pulled down. But I was able to re-record that song vocally 3 years later. So that just to see the difference to me, like that felt like a win. So this record's really been like an experiment in, I don't know what the word would be, man, just like letting go of the things that kind of triggered my anxiety for years, and that self-doubt. And I feel like I'm moving into like a better headspace. So yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's
also,
cool.
Also a story about that song was, so we recorded it 3 years ago, and we wanted to put it out, and it was a pitched song. So it was sent over, and it had also been sent to Kid Rock. So Kid Rock was like, yeah, he passed on it. So we took it, we cut it, did all the album art, recorded it. We're like, here's our release date. Is this cool? And we never heard anything back for like 6 months from their camp. So then we released it, and then we woke up to an email being like, hey, like Kid Rock wants to make this a big song. So he just doesn't want to do it if someone else has released it already. Because in country music, you'll hear a lot of artists like record the same songs, like especially if it's an album cut versus a single, and ours was just going to be an album cut. So we pulled it down, and then about 5 weeks ago, Kid Rock put out his version of the song called Still Something. So like we're now like in the final hour. Like it's actually not going to be on like the pressed CDs. It'll be on the vinyl, and it'll be on the digital copy, because we'd already printed CDs, even though nobody, they make great coasters. That's about it these days. But, the label still wanted to do them. So that's kind of a neat thing, right? It's like seeing that come out, both for myself to have gone in and hear my voice 3 years apart after an injury, and like how good it sounds compared to what it sounded like, which was fine, but not as good. And then also just having that connection to Kid Rock. I always joke that if I would have known that Kid Rock was going to kind of screw me out of like a $12,000 release, if you told me that when I was 14, I never would have believed you, Yeah. Obviously you didn't do it on purpose. It just, that's the way the industry goes, but kind of a funny thing for me.
Wow. That is wild. The industry is just, that's crazy. That's wild. What's your music taste like? Like, are you all over the map? Like, do you try and peer away from country because you're always recording it and that kind of stuff? Or what's your music taste like?
Man, I tend to gravitate. Gotta eat something pretty soon. No, it just depends, man. I love sad songs. Like I'm a lover of sad songs. It's just my like go-to songs that make me feel. And then I listen to a lot of like Donovan Woods and a lot of who else? I'm trying to think. Like in country, I still listen to like a lot of the Eric Church stuff, and obviously Morgan Wallen and Ernest and Hardy. Those guys are just, they're crushing it, and those records are great. But yeah, it's all over the place, man. I feel like I gravitate a little more towards singer-songwriter stuff. Cool. And the Cadillac 3 kind of like Southern rock vibe. Anybody who I feel like has something to say that is saying it in a unique way. I got a hard time with buzzwords and just, I like when I hear something that's never been said before in a way it's never been said before, I guess is the goal. And I mean, I don't always adhere to that in my own music, but when I hear somebody do something that I've just never heard before, and I go, man, I wish I wrote that. Like, like the Ernest and Morgan song, Flower Shops. Like, it's a good day for flower shops. Like what, like, that's a great way to say, like, I fucked up and I'm going to have to buy some flowers because I fucked up. And it's like, well, it's a good day for flower shops because I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like a great way to put it. So stuff like that, man. Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Cool. Good stuff. So one more question before we let you go. So we'll go to a more local side. I'll send it over to Mason here. We'll tee him up here. He always gets one question.
We allow one question.
Yeah.
Let him out of the dog cage, eh?
Finally. So we just have a long kind of standing tradition here. First, I would just like to ask you about your take on the Sudbury Arena. Do you think they should keep it downtown centered or move it over the Kingsway?
You're going to get me in some hot water here. I'll start with this, okay? Out of every band that I know that has nationally toured, Sudbury Arena ranks as like the number one worst fucking place to play in. I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Everybody who I talk to is like, yeah, that like, it sucks, man. The acoustics are terrible. The rooms like it's musty and moldy, and it's just not inviting, right? And to me, okay, I don't care what they do. I don't care what they do with it. If they move it, I can see the appeal of moving it because, you know, you're going to build this brand new thing. You're going to have all this space. You're going to put all these hotels in. But then also from a culture standpoint, as someone who wants to like build a home and a family here in town, our downtown core, you've seen people like Rob Gregorini and I'm trying to think who else. Like I'm blanking, but all of these people who have invested in these like businesses and like the guys who own Peddler's Pub and all of these like, you know, bars and stuff. Like we have the ability to build an arts culture downtown that, you know, we have three post-secondary schools. So it could be this like this great thing downtown, but you know, I just think everybody's always going to be divided on it. I think it could be great either way, but if you're going to do it, go all in. Don't do this like half-ass, like, oh, we're just going to like do patchwork on the old barn and make it like, you can put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. You know what I mean? Like knock it down. You're like to me, I don't know if you built this huge, like the KED, right? You can make a weekend out of it. You can make a night out of it. You can go, you could stay overnight. Like even if I'm in the South End, okay, so people are worried about transportation. Well, just set up transportation. Like I get it. We don't have Uber here. We don't have U-Ride. So you know what you do? You just hire shuttles and you can just like build that into the cost. And I guarantee you people will use it.
100%.
So I'm
like
for
that.
whatever is going to be the best for our city and whatever you're going to do the best job at. Don't give me like a 75% effort. Give me 100% effort on whatever you do.
Love it.
I love that take. Okay. So kind of a two-parter. I get two here. In the Sudbury Arena, iconic stuffed wolf goes out when the Sudbury Wolves score. Are you a Wolves fan? Do you want to see that wolf stay in there no matter what the arena situation turns into?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a funny tradition, but it's also kind of like a thing that's been there forever. I think they could probably make it like a little cooler, you know, like it could
Some
not
lasers
like,
going.
yeah, like something that just makes it a little more awesome. I feel like this is controversial. I feel like the Sudbury Wolves logo could use a rework. Like I really do feel like you could do something that's cooler than what we have. I'm always like, I get it. Like it's a nod to like the old school, but man, there's like, it could just be more badass, I think, in my opinion. But
Gotcha.
you know,
hey, maybe we should get you in touch with Sudbury Wolves Entertainment. You can be like the Drake of the Wolves and the Five. Get your creative influence on there.
There you go. And that's not a knock on the guys. I don't know the guys who designed it, and I'm sure, but like, I love. I don't know. You can see I love like black and like traditional tattoo art. So I'm like more into stuff that's a little more like metal.
Oh man, I love it. Great takes all around. Well, listen, Andrew, thanks so much for coming on, and we're so excited to get this out and you investing your time and chatting with us. Good luck with everything. I know you'll be at Boots and there's going to be a bunch more coming out and your record's coming out May 6th. So yeah, we're excited to see everything you do, and we'll be rooting for you and obviously listening to your music, which is a treat. So thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. And I just noticed as you were saying that my handle, like my name it's the Captain. I'm not an asshole. It's actually just my Xbox handle from when I was like 15, which I still use. But yeah, I got to change that. So when I do, I've done like 5 interviews this week, and that's what it says underneath. Take me out now. Anyway, appreciate you guys very much, and I love to see this, man. I love to see you guys are organized, and you're like, you know, you're killing it in like a professional way, and like your audio sounds good. I was listening to the podcast earlier this week just to kind of get a feel for it, and good job, man. Like it's such like the Wild West podcast is such a Wild West thing right now. So keep going and keep improving and keep killing it for sure.
Awesome. We appreciate that.